The book shows you to support the input shaft, the output shaft. So I'm going to bring this up and get that in. So we'll just support it with a rig. There we go. Beautiful. Good idea, Miss Lear. All right. So now I can go ahead and take this snap ring off. And we modified this snap ring pliers because he knows there's a ridge and it was too fat to get in there. So now I get that in there and I could take off that snap ring. Should work fine. Let's see. Put that in there with my modified plier. Oh, I think it's gonna go now. Oh, pain, this little snap ring. You want to grab the magnet, Jordy? All right, so here's our snap ring, right? So we're going to put that snap ring right here inside the ring gear so we don't lose that. And again, I wanted to show you a better image of how we modified this pliers, because I'm going to pull out my planetary set right here with the thrust washer. Always check your thrust washers. Always check your pinion gears in and out, in and out. Up and down, it's going to have play. In and out, it's not going to have play. But the reason why we had to modify this is to get the snap ring, we had to fit this over this ridge right here to get at that snap ring. That's why we had to modify this. So flip, again, flip everything. So that way, you know where all the pieces go, you know, and everything snacks. So we did, at first, part 1, we did this part of the video. Part 2, we did this part of the video. Now we're doing the top end. We're going to pull out our sun gear shell. There's a needle bearing right here we need to be aware of, looking for any missing little needle bearings. I don't see any. That's going to flip right onto here, okay? Here's our sun gear shell. And then on the back side of the sun gear shell is a one-way clutch. So before we take this one-way clutch apart, let's get the orientation right. I hold the sun gear drum. I grab the one-way clutch. It turns clockwise, but locks counterclockwise. Clockwise rotates, locks counterclockwise. So when we go back together, we know how that goes. And that fits right over here. We have another thrust washer right here. There's notches. Yeah, so this is directional. So this can only fit one way or it will not work, okay? So there's a ridge here. So the flat side's facing down right there. So we need to have that ridge right, okay? So that's important. We do have, these are not scarf seals. These are locking seals. So you push on the back, you pinch, and then you separate. You check these seals, and they're locking nickel-plated seals. Let's get the next one. Pull that off, expand it, and we're going to check it. Now, you replace these on our overhaul, but we're just practicing an overhaul, and then that locks. Okay? Everyone needs to practice taking these seals off. Don't just watch. Practice. Get those on, expand them. You don't want to over-expand them. You only want to expand them enough to slide them down. And then you're going to pinch on the back, slide it over, and then push in. And then those lock, okay? All right. Good? Ready?
Yeah.
All right, so now we got to get our snap ring down there. But before we do that, we want to air check that clutch. So let's get an air nozzle. And we're going to air check that clutch. This is the clutch hole. And you can see it moving. Oh, wow. Listen to that. Wonderful. That's a good clutch. You hear it blow right back out. You hear it apply. Yeah. So, technically, that would not have been my problem. Oh, here's another thing. So, these are the center support screws. There's one transmission in our group of transmissions that we're using, and it was missing these. Well, it wouldn't be missing these if the person that lost these a couple years back screwed them in. All right, so now let's go ahead and take apart the clutch pack here. See, might need a, there we go. That will work. Okay, so now I'm working really deep and I have a chance to slice my hand. So that's when these become great. These are the radiator hose tools. So you'd find these in the radiator section of the Snap-on catalog. And I'm gonna grab one that has a long extension and a hook, because when I turn that snap ring, I'm gonna grab it with this hook. And then I don't have to have my finger in there. And then I don't have to worry about slicing my hand. Wow, look at that. Don't have to worry about slicing my hand at all using that. I'm checking to see if it's beveled, and it's not beveled. So we're okay. I'm gonna go right here on the sun gear drum. I'm gonna take out this clutch pack. I'm gonna look at my clutches. Okay, there is a spacer plate that goes onto the clutch piston right here. So this is just a special spacer plate that goes down onto the piston, and then you fan these out. Checking for hot spots, checking for damaged teeth. Okay, again, looks pretty good to me. Not much difference with the pressure plate. Excuse me. So if you look, very little difference with the pressure plate here. So that's pretty interesting. You see how it's thin, thick. So just be aware of that. Okay. So now we're gonna go flip it and spline these onto the one-way clutch. See, right there. And then remember, they should fall down really nice on the one-way clutch. If they're sticking on a one-way clutch, then inspect the teeth of the outer race or the clutches themselves. I have to sneeze, which is a problem too while you're teaching. All right, we got these all down on the one-way clutch, and it's easier to see now the thicker pressure plate, but man, it's very minimal. It's not a lot. All right, so now we need to get another snap ring. Okay, now keep in mind, this snap ring is going to be the same size as this snap ring, diameter wise. And students get confused which snap ring is for the clutch and which one is holding down this clutch drum and piston. Okay, so you got to be really aware of where the oh, it looks like it takes a special pliers. So let me see if I can get it with a snap ring pliers. Okay, I'm twisting here, I'm prying here. There we go. See, I got that. All right, now I can grab another one of these. And I'm gonna start pulling this up, but definitely get that underneath there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pry this a little more and pull. You wanna always keep one underneath so you don't backtrack. So let's get this one in. May be able to get right in there. There we go. That helped. So the trick is coming, once you get it started, come with the pry bar, and you can start prying this up a little bit at a time. There we go. And I got my hand underneath there, and so now I can take off the last little section right here. There we go. So snap ring was oriented this way. It is beveled. So there's a top side and a bottom side that's flat. So orientation is really important. Okay. Ideally, you should have a larger pair of these to grab this snap ring and install it with the snap ring pliers. At the high school here, we don't do transmissions enough to make me buy this special snap ring, larger snap ring pliers to be able to do that. So I showed you a way to do it without the snap ring pliers. So now I can reach down there and that drum will just pull right out with this tool. Should. I almost had it there. There we go. And you can see it'd just be really hard without this special tool. All right, so this is a clutch piston with a retaining spring and a snap ring that applies this clutch. And it's on a one-way clutch. So there is a one-way clutch on the planetary right here. You can see the rays coming up. Okay, so let's look at their orientation. Turns counterclockwise, locks clockwise. Turns counterclockwise, locks clockwise. I'm gonna put that right there. There we go. And that's actually going together. That's going to be one of your biggest challenges. There is a hole here for the application of that piston. So there is a special seal here. We don't drive this out because we don't really have the seals to replace. So if we drove this out, we would have to replace this. But this should be changed. It's a total tube. Should be changed every time you do an overhaul. Okay. All right. So now pull out my clutch pack, and then here's the pressure plate. Fan them out. Look good. Teeth look good. No hot spots. Okay. And the pressure plate was down in the transmission. So then that's the clutch. Yeah. Okay. So this is the reverse brake disc gets set, which is the bottom, very bottom clutch. Okay. And it shows the output shaft with the ring gear right here and the one-way clutch right here. And it shows you stack this on. But if you notice, there is a detail right here. And you read it, if you read it, it says make sure that the disc plates and flange are installed in the correct order. Make sure to install the flange with the rounded edge facing the discs. This is the flange right here. And you notice it has a rounded edge. So if I fan this out, this is the flange right here, and it has the rounded edge. This is your first plate going down, and then it goes friction steel, friction steel, friction steel, all the way up to the last steel. Okay, so when I put this on my stack, this is going down in the transmission, so this is going to go up. So let's walk right over, and then we're going to flip it. Okay. And then we're going to put this right onto that outer race of the one-way clutch, making sure they slide down properly. None of the teeth are bent, because if the teeth are bent, we're doing this for practice. So if you have any bent teeth, that is really going to affect you being able to get these assemblies to go together without sticking and jamming. So we want to make sure that none of these are compromised, because this is the transmissions you're working on. This is like the fourth time they've been apart. Okay, so check this. Make sure they all spline, because if they all spline, then we'll have fewer problems when we go back together. And then again, the rounded edges are going to go down, and because this is going to go into the transmission. Okay, so now I can pull out my output shaft, and there is a parking gear here. So this parking gear lever right here. Okay, bring that up. So we don't want that engaged, because if it's engaged, then we won't be able to pull that out. So right now that's engaged, we won't be able to pull it out. So let's take it out of gear, our parking gear. Now we should be able to pull this out. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take this transmission now. Let's slide this up. And here's what we're running into right here. So we need to take this off. All right. So I'm going to take that snap ring off right here. And this is the output shaft speed sensor reluctor ring. Okay. Oh, and there is a special keeper, a Woodruff key. So let's look at where that Woodruff key goes. And that Woodruff key goes right here, and that's really important that we know where that Woodruff key goes, because that holds this reluctor ring into the right position. So that way our timing's right. Let's see. So I can take that out. I'm gonna set that aside. Let's see if I can. Well, there's just another snap ring too. We were having some issues. You got to get this perfect to get it to slide off. We also put on some assembly lube there, and that helped. But you can see how this is timed, where the Woodruff key goes inside here. Okay, so that's really important that we don't lose that Woodruff key. And there is another snap ring. And then this output shaft and parking gear will come out. So let's get the other snap ring. There's a snap ring in front and a snap ring behind. There we go. Just kind of slide that over. Okay. Put that over with my gear, and now we should be able to take this whole assembly out. And there's a needle bearing right here that we need, that goes inside the case. Okay. There's also another locking spring here, and there's a bearing here with a thrust washer. So paying attention to details, and it's so easy to lose those details. Okay, so that goes there. This bearing has a race that has a lip on it. So this bearing right here can only go in one way, and it's a it is two-piece design. So it has to go in this way, or your stack-up clearances are going to be bad. And then nothing else. So then there's my parking gear, my ring gear, my rear planetary set. Get that down. And I'm just trying to show you how everything with transmissions that are on rear-wheel drive, and this has a direction too because it has a lip. So this is going to drop down. That bearing is going to go there, and then this, well, pretty much, I might have a hard time getting into the planetary set in here because it's all not perfectly aligned, but if you really wanted to, you could get it to drop. There is one output shaft seal right here. It's another one of those locking type that you take it, you expand it right here. So practice these. I mean, you know, you don't want to overexpand them, and they lock. And you replace all of these when you do a transmission overhaul. Okay? You would never want to reuse these because they're just too easy to replace. So if you look at our transmission now, we have a clutch in the back. That takes a special clutch compressor that has a shaft that goes through the rear. So let me go get that. So the way this clutch assembly works is this goes on the clutch retaining springs, and then this goes through where the output shaft goes, and then you have the wing nut or the nut on the back side, and that compresses that clutch inside the transmission. Okay, so they make other versions of this. I had to modify this one actually. I had to cut some metal off of it because I couldn't get the jaws to squeeze in tight enough. So I think I got it. So let's see how I do. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in right here. I'm gonna get it to where I could get at that snap ring. Okay, so I can see the snap ring right there. Let's see. And I wanna have as close as I can right there. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead, and this takes a washer right here. Okay, so there's a washer, and then I'm gonna use the wing nut and try that. So I'm gonna put this on the back right here, and then attach my wing nut. Okay. So I have my tool compressing that the return spring and retainer, and so now I got the snap ring oriented properly. So now I could put my snap ring pliers down there and pop that right off. Let's see if I can pull it out with the. Oh, this is where that nice little radiator tool works great. Okay, so I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna pull that up. So I don't know what I would do without these radiator tools because my hand doesn't fit in all. There we go. All right, so there's our piston. Okay, and this is the spot where the parking pole goes in. So when you pull this piston out, again, pinch that seal, feel it with 3 fingers, checking for cuts. And this is all for practice, but we want to make sure we're doing it right. And then this does not have an inner seal. Okay, so we removed the reverse brake piston right here, but there's it only has the outer seal. It does not have the inner seal because there is a retraction sleeve that fits on the case. That retraction sleeve requires a special servo tool to remove that special retraction sleeve where the inner seal will be. So I'm just showing you this because we need to understand there's an inner seal and it's on a retraction sleeve. And let's look at the case right here. And it's deep down inside here, and we don't have a way of pulling that out. You could hear it's hollow. So if I take a tool and I hit it right here, it is, this whole thing will come out, but you got to have the tool to do it. Going back together, we're going to go ahead and just use a little petroleum jelly and some assembly lube, lubricate that seal. Okay, you want to clean this off with brake clean and blow it dry, but right now we're just going to hurry get this together so I can publish this video for you guys. Get it where the parking lever could go inside, right here, and it will. We do want to get a long pry bar, and we want to gently tap that piston down. There it goes. So we got that piston down inside with them. And we get our piston spring retaining tool, our piston spring retainer. Stick that down right here. And then we're going to put our snap ring down, get it ready. Okay. Try to get inside there so you can see. Okay. And then we got a special service tool right over that piston right there. Or right over that retaining ring. Perfectly placed. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay. Now I'm going to use the nut this time. All right. So we're going to go ahead and tighten the clutch spring compressor nut. Okay, don't have to go much. Now let's go back on top. And now let's see if I have that down far enough. I need to go a little more. Now that should be good. Okay, you want to take that snap ring. I'm going to expand it, and then I'm going to get my radiator hose tool. Oh, yeah. There you go. All right, so 2 large screwdrivers, because I tried the snap ring, I can't get my hand on it. There we go. And I'm gonna work that around. And then now you notice I'm not inside this clip right here, okay? So I'm gonna get a little mallet or a little hammer and I'll punch it down so it gets inside there. So I'm in this side, but I'm not in this side right here. We gotta get that down. There we go. There we go. Because if you see what happens is once it snaps in, you should be able to spin this. And you want to line it up like I talked about the other ones in between the notches there. So if you could spin that snap ring, you get it in between those 2 notches right there and right there, you're good. So now I'll go ahead and release the tension on it underneath. So 2 screwdrivers. Don't try the snap ring pliers like I did and failed successfully. And then use the nut instead of the wing nut. Because if you use that nut, then you can slide this out and pull the whole thing through. And that's the special tool. So I've been fighting with this for, what did you say, good 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Trying to use the snap ring pliers. It worked taking it off, but the problem is with the special tool in there in my big hand, it just didn't work. So the best way to do it, 2 large screwdrivers and just kind of pry them over the ridge and get it to snap in. Okay, so now we could go ahead and start reassembling this. So I'm gonna go ahead. This is the output shaft bearing. We could go ahead and put that down right there. Okay, and then it locks into place. So now I have my ring gear. There's a bearing there. I don't have to glue this bearing down. The race goes on top because it's sitting on the bearing sits on top. But just make sure that everything's clean, blow dried, missing no needle bearings. This is the one where you got to support the output shaft with something, otherwise it'll just fall through. So I'm going to bring this all the way down. And I'm going to stack up a rag underneath it and make it the difference. And that should, there we go, lock into place. And then we got our ring gear and our parking gear all together. So here's the reverse brake retaining spring that we put on top of the piston, and it shows you the special tool that we are using. Okay, it talks about the little tabs and how important they are. And then you could go ahead and, we don't want to pressure check it until we have it assembled. I disagree with this, okay? And then you got the one-way clutch here. You could take that out. We're going to fast forward that so we could save time. Okay, so you'd want to inspect all that. Okay, and then you have the ring gear with the parking pawl. Talking about the thrust washers here. And here's that seal on the output shaft. Okay. It does go over overhauling that one assembly there, so which is the second brake clutch assembly. And then it's showing you that you drop this whole thing in together. So the bearing, yep, so it's showing you drop this all together. So I'm going to pull that output shaft out and we're going to redo that. So I initially started to assemble it in pieces, but the book says to install a whole assembly together. So I want to try it the way the book says. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble this onto the vise right here. There we go. And then you grab my clutches right here. Okay, the pressure plate goes down, and then we have our frictions and steels. All right, so again, we're going to line all this up, and then you have to have the spacing right. Okay, so we're getting all the spacing right. Let's see, maybe I have this flip.
There we go.
Yep. So you got to get the spacing right. You got to have their orientation right.
And what are these spacings for right here?
They fit into the special sections in the case. So there you go. And then there we go. There. Did I get it right? No, I didn't get it right.
Upside down.
Let's see.
Oh, no, you had it right. It was like
right.
that.
Yeah. There we go. And then last one. There we go. Get all that right so it fits down in the case properly. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take off. This is the another clutch that we're going to do. So we're going to use the clutch spring compressor here. And so there is a special service tool to compress this properly. I don't have it in my jaws for both my foot compressor and my portable clutch spring compressor do not fit this properly. So, but let's go ahead and put this on. Okay, so this one fits over the top of this right here, like this. And then we're gonna install this whole thing together. Now this is gonna face the opening, okay? So get these aligned. And let's give it a shot. You know what, I think we could do, well, we'll leave that open there. Yeah. Okay. That lined up. And then we need to have that there. See right there. Let me take a better look at this one. I'm gonna line the smaller end over here. There it goes. Our line, I just got to get this to drop down. Oh, you know what? The one thing I will say, I forgot. Hit stop. All right, so we have that clutch pack in there. Okay, the second brake. So now we could go ahead and put our clutches in. Okay, So I'm gonna go ahead and first I'm gonna put in this thrust washer. Okay, it's really important we get this thrust washer down there and get it locked into place. And let's see, right like that. Okay. Get that thrust washer, and you know it's always good to put a little bit of on top, maybe even some. I haven't really been talking. You can lubricate anything in here with transmission lube. Okay. Now this is the snap ring that was difficult, and we couldn't get the snap ring in with this piston plate in there. So and it's beveled. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this in there first. Okay. So I'm gonna use 2 long screwdrivers like we did before and see if I can get it that way. I'm going to get it kind of started. Let's see. Here's one. There we go. I'm going to walk that down. So long screwdrivers, very common with mechanics, transmission mechanics, because my fat hands don't fit down inside here. So, but a screwdriver does. There we go. Okay. Not quite the orientation I would have liked, but it's down all the way, so we're going to leave it in there. The reason why I don't like this orientation is because that one hole that you use the snap ring pliers for is covered. So if I were to do this transmission again, the only choice I have is to use the way I showed you when I took it out with like that. Okay, so but make sure they're all seated into the case. Now I'm going to grab this plate. This goes right on top, right here. Okay. Now I'm going to take each friction, put that in. Come on, drop. And oh, I see. There's a. Thank you. So there's a spot right there with a missing tooth. Okay, you got to have that in the right place. And actually, there's 2 spots with missing tooth. My bad. It's all that attention to detail. And when your brain's tired like mine is right now, that detail becomes very difficult. Okay, so now friction. And then let's go ahead and put all these in. Now since I know the orientation, they'll drop down pretty easily. And there. All right, so I got my snap ring in now with all my clutches, and now I'm going to go ahead and align these clutches. So I want my my one-way clutch to drop in there. It's nice and easy. Okay. There is a missing. If you notice, it's like the other one-way clutch. There are missed sections with missing teeth, so we got to get those all aligned. So we have a missing tooth here. So you will not be able to get the drop down as easily if you don't get those aligned, those sections aligned. And I gotta do just the last one. There we go. There we go. And always note how many clutches you got to drop down. It looks like I got to drop down 5 clutches on this. Okay. Also, if you notice, these teeth are showing more than this side. So I want to try to center that a little bit by moving it where they're all equal. It's a little bit thin on this side, so I'm going to move these over a little bit. Okay. Perfect. I'm pretty happy with that. All right. So now here's our sun gear drum, our one-way clutch that locks counterclockwise, spins clockwise. And I'm going to drop that down, and it should drop down 5 times. Let's see. Once when it goes, it should go pretty easily. And I'm wiggling the output shaft too at the same time. All right, so this is not dropping down, so let's try something else. Let's take off our one-way clutch, okay, and let's try and get this to drop down separately. There we go. 2. 3. There we go, all the way down. Okay, so that's all the way down. Now I'm going to go ahead, get the thrust washer here. I'm going to glue this thrust washer down. Glue that down right on top, right here. Oh, actually, you know what? It should glue. Take it back. It glues to the sun gear shell because it has these little tabs. Because I was going, why isn't it like locking in? So we're gonna glue that right to our sun gear drum. Now we're gonna drop our sun gear drum in, and it's okay to lubricate this. Get these seals all lubricated. You could polish this with emery cloth like the other one-way clutch, this inner race. And so we're gonna go ahead and see if we get this to drop in. There we go. Okay. All right, so now we have our planetary gear set. There's a needle bearing in there, and it's holding in place, so I'm not worried about it. Drop that down. And then the last thing for today is I'm gonna push this up again because my snap ring, my rag came off when I was wiggling and jiggling to hold that output shaft up. And now we also have the snap ring pliers we modified, and we can go right in through the sun gear drum right here, and I should be able to put that snap ring right down in place. Now here's where a long screwdriver comes into play. Okay, so that's going to help me. And now I just need to verify that that snaps into place. And I might need to lift up on my, yeah, it's not in right here. So I'm going to lift up on that output shaft. Let's see. Let's see if it spins. If it spins, then we're in. It spins. You saw it spin, Jordy?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I see
It's spinning.
Yep.
So we're in the groove. We're good.
Beautiful.
Okay, so we could go ahead and take out our jack stand. And that's as far as I want you to really take it, other than there are some measurements that I need you to do. Okay, you could, well, first off, let's go ahead and air check everything, make sure it's good. So I'm going to air check it right here. So this is the bottom clutch that we're doing, and so that's working great. And there's an air check right, a clutch pack clearance measurement that you need to measure right there. And then right here is also a clutch pack clearance. So you have your snap ring right here, and you got to measure the clearance of this clutch pack too. Another thing you have to measure is you got to measure the end play of our output shaft. But we're going to go ahead and model that, and then we'll call it a day on the video. So a little bit of review. This is where it showed me that I had the second clutch on top of the reverse clutch pack here. I had all the everything lined up, and then it goes in all as one assembly. So I read the instructions, including, you know, how to kind of block up that. Then the snap ring right here, this is showing you the beveled edge that I was talking about for that clutch pack, okay? Here's the clearance I want you to do. I am not going to do this measurement. You grab a feeler gauge. You're doing this in the class. I'm not going to model it because it's all it is, sticking in a feeler gauge inside that clutch pack's clearance. And it's the reverse brake clutch, which is the bottom one, okay? Then we put in that plate that keeps you from pulling out that snap ring or installing it. So this plate is really crucial to remove first or to install last so you get that snap ring in. Here's that little seal that we don't do because we're at a college setting and we don't want to be buying all these all the time. But that's the special sleeve and seal that goes against the second brake clutch, okay? This is showing you the one-way clutch right here, and then what they're doing, they installed that one-way clutch, and then they put the clutch pack over the top of it. So I guess you could have done it that way. I actually installed the clutches, then installed my one-way clutch, and it did work, okay? We put in that snap ring. It's showing you a long screwdriver like I talked about, showing you to change that seal on the sun gear shaft, okay? You can replace the drum if it's damaged. Going over the seals again on that. The thrust washer, glue that thrust washer down, and then it's showing you the direction you turn to get it to drop down in the one-way clutch. And then here is the planetary set showing you the proper installation here of the bearing race with the bearing. So these attention to details are really important. Here's the final snap ring, and this is where I want you to stop. So we were looking for two things, that the direct clutch clearance, but also the special the in play for the output shaft, which is 10 thousandths to 40 thousandths. We're going to go ahead and do this, but it doesn't want you to do this until after you install the center support and have the two bolts installed. So just keep that in mind on the reassembly. And come on this side, I have it set up. We're going to do it again after we put in our center support. We're going to bring this all the way in, and then I'm going to loosen the little knob. Let's see. Actually, it looks like them don't have to do that. And I'm going to zero this out right here. And it was 10 thousandths to 40 thousandths. So let's see. And I'm pulling that output shaft out, and it looks like I got 34 thousandths. Let's go ahead and push it in. 0.